not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships.
Hey, YouTube.com and other platforms like Facebook and the one person on Twitch. Thanks for showing up today to talk to us on a slow news day, but we got stuff. We got stuff to talk about. And I'm here with my buddy Rob, the Sketchcraft dude.
Hey, yo.
And yeah, we have a couple of questions that I meant to get to, by the way, the last couple of days that I wanted to talk about, or I wanted to like hit on, because when people write them in, I always say I will do it, and sometimes they forget. So,
Have we ever answered questions?
yeah, right.
I'd like to. Let's answer them. Jason, why does Rob suck? You're like, well,
let me tell you. Let me tell you. It goes back to the depression with his grandparents. No,
it does. It does.
Before the show, we were talking about how our grandparents made depression era food, and it was like,
Just punch down 2 generations too while you're at it, man. You sweep the leg. You put me in a body bag.
let's take them all out. No,
my avatar mug don't give a shit. How about that?
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, I'll tell you though. Say one nice thing about them. My grandfather was cool, but one day he took me and my cousin around, and he just showed us how to live off of nothing during a depression, which was just something he decided he was going to do. And he showed us like how you use the creamers and coffees to supplement milk products, all this stuff. It was pretty fascinating. And also considering where we've been the last couple of years, it's been like, well, hey, that might be kind of useful at some point. Who knows?
You want to know what my mom taught me that her mother taught her?
Yeah.
To go to the Bob's Big Boy and steal the salt and pepper shakers and pawn them. That was my job. I had to run cover for my mom at the Bob's Big Boy.
Dude, if I was on death row right now and I was going to be killed because I who would I have murdered? I don't know. I murdered somebody and I'm on death row. I would get the Bob's Big Boy chili spaghetti, because believe it or not, it is
chili cheese spaghetti, right?
Yeah, it is so good.
It is.
And my grandfather my grandfather though would ask for, he didn't want the garlic bread, he'd ask for the hamburger bun toasted. I don't know why, but it was also pretty good,
because generally there's more sugar in the buns.
Sugar buns. Is that why they call me sugar buns?
Maybe, I don't know, okay. But I mean, sweet. But they do. That's why they have a sweeter taste to them if you go and.
Yeah. One time I was at a Bob's Big Boy, and right over to my right, there's only like 1 or 2 Bob's Big Boys in this area left. I think there's only 1 left, honestly. And it was to my right was Dave Filoni and Sam Witwer discussing Darth Maul, and it was not like it was on purpose. It just is the Force.
You ever think you're in a simulation because you're just like, this is what I do? What are the odds that you're seeing this, right? Like, or is it like the UFOs or a new car? You only notice it once you're in it, right? Like they're all around.
I'm fairly certain in about 2012 I was in a car accident and I'm in a coma right now. And that's what all of this is.
Your imagination.
It's my imaginary bud, Rob, that I created in a coma.
Your imagination. I know what everyone has their ego, right? No one ever imagines you're part of someone else's
right? Yeah.
I guess I'm his. Huh.
Yeah. When you go down those rabbit holes of are we in a simulation, you start to go like, so am I a meat bag hooked up to a thing and I can wake up, or am I just a computer AI? Is that all I
think we're all Snokes in a jar.
Snokes in a jar. So our buddy Astro wrote in or tweeted and asked the question, Jason, does Star Wars canon explain if Uncle Owen recognizes C-3PO in A New Hope? Has there been an explanation in the comics books or somewhere else? So that I thought was a pretty like a throwback question that you don't really hear anymore. So I was like kind of like down for it. And it's a weird kind of situation now because whatever was canon, isn't it? The film's novel is semi-canon, but only what you see on screen is canon. That's how they literally rationalized the novelizations. So that way they don't have to adhere to anything that they don't want to. But I think the on-screen rationalization is that he has his rusty coverings on. And when you see him 20 years later and he has the gold coverings, it's like, oh, it doesn't click. And then his name is C-3PO, but he's probably met hundreds of droids named X712 and stuff like that throughout the years. So it doesn't really ring a bell. It's not very important to him. That as
it's like John Stamos in Prague, right? He's like, right? Well, once you've been around,
once you stay most. No, so it kind of like, so I think that's like that's the rationalization. Now, originally there was a deeper rationalization, and that was going to be that when we see C-3PO in Attack of the Clones, he looks just like he did during the Phantom Menace. He's been naked the whole time. He's not happy. Anakin goes out to kill women and children, as he does. And Padme, with nothing to do, not wanting to talk to those country bumpkins in the kitchen, decided she was going to put C-3PO's coverings back on him. And so that would have sort of justified the idea, I think, that, oh, well, when Uncle Owen and Beru saw him, he was a naked droid. But that got cut for time and to make the already kind of bloated movie flow better. And so I think that's the takeaway at the end of it. I don't think it's something that they actually want to confront outright. I don't think it's in their best interest to, because it's sort of plot holey, but it's not a plot hole in the sense that it can be justified. Like
when I cared about this sort of thing,
yeah,
around the early 2000s, my headcanon was that Owen does recognize it, but he's not gonna go, "Hey, Luke, there's your freaking crazy dad's robot." He's like, wipe their minds. You make sure you get out there and wipe their minds, because his ulterior motive is, I want them wiped tomorrow first thing.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, he doesn't care that Anakin used to do it. He needs a droid. He's not going to, there's only so many things. There's not a lot of used car trucks coming by to sell you a Honda out in the middle of Tatooine. So this is the one I got, but I know where that thing's been. So freaking wipe it. And I think the performance helps sell that little headcanon. The reality is George does what George wants.
Yeah. No. And
I mean, to see through the PO, and I got it. So.
And I think it would have been better to have left the Padme adding the coverings on, even if it was just like 1 second of, oh, I'm finishing this up. You look great. Here we go. You know what I mean? It would have just been a nice thing, but it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Well, in 1999's Rob, who was like, I could fanfic my way. Like, this should have been done this way. Was that, well, if Anakin wants to be a starfighter pilot, he wants to build a ship, he wouldn't build himself a protocol droid. He'd build an astromech, because you need one to pilot the galaxy. Anakin should have built himself an R2. You know, I built the mech. It's like you built everything but the ship, right? I got the sauce, the wine, the steak, the knife, but no steak. You know, and
but he was a good boy. He was a good boy.
Being a protocol droid would have been Padme's little servant.
Yeah.
And this sort of thing, right? Like the chick who's royalty would probably have the protocol droid, and the kid who wants to be a starfighter pilot would probably make the 3PO or the R2 astromech. But then I was like, what does it matter what I come up with? I got real nihilistic for a while. I was like, does it matter? Lucas is going to do what he's going to do. And he's going to be like, I didn't understand why the 3PO was see-through, but a practical puppet. And then all the living creatures could have been puppets. Like, you know, half the things in the movie are CGI. I was like, why didn't they just make 3PO the big digital creature and do like one Gungan? And then when they make the technology in the second movie, bring in more of the Gungans, you know, like.
Yeah. No, what you're talking about the R2 and 3PO stuff, that's what was going through my head when I was reading spoilers on T-Bone Star Wars Universe and Any Cool News or whatever in 1998, 97, 98.
T-Bone Star Wars Universe. You just took me back, my friend.
Yeah. It was like, oh, why would they do that? And I thought about it for a minute, and I'm like, oh, okay, I think I see what the idea maybe as a writer was. And my assumption was, if you she needs a 3PO and he needs an R2, then they become in the mix together. There's like more of an intertwined kind of dynamic between who belongs to who and who goes what, and how they would be put into social situations that would bring the characters together. And I think that in the end, that's probably where his head was. That's my guess, is that's where his head was, and because things weren't as planned out as they could have been.
Yeah, and if you go from a character standpoint, like, okay, let's say Anakin is, a slave for a junk dealer, and that junk dealer goes, hey, my slave made a robot, I can make some money off that. Now, if Anakin said, yeah, but it's an astromech, now I know I can't fly, but we could race pods and he can help me in the pod, right? Like R2 would fit in the pod and he could be out there pod racing. Then he goes, oh, I won't sell your droid. You can make me more money that way. But that's, again, developing from character. Like Lucas, I mean, I have some of his notes from Jedi, right? Like those first drafts when he just writes down, it's the Lawrence Kasdan way of doing things where you write down like 15 scenes or 8 scenes, however many scenes that fits within a certain time structure. And it looks like a bullet list, but that's what it is. And I just think he just goes with the first thing off the top of his head and goes, there's a movie.
Yeah.
Like I really think, I'm not saying that's good or bad. Sometimes it's genius. You don't overthink it. But it's just one of those things where like you could avoid a lot of that because by the time you get to Owen and Aunt Beru, they wouldn't have had, one second.
We're losing smokes. You. We're losing you.
Jabba and I have been snacking on frogs before the show. So you like that? So, I was saying that if Padme had 3PO, then they would have just met them maybe once at one point. It wouldn't have been something that they physically were on the ranch for a few years. Like, I mean, at 10 years, really. 3PO was probably with them for about 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And it does end up that way. It does end up where R2 is with Anakin the entire time, and is in his Jedi Starfighter, and 3PO is with Padme. So it does end up there. The characters, the characters do move through those kind of places in that way. But there was a comment that I thought was funny on our YouTube channel here from Thomas Sutton, who said, I want to agree with what you said about Disney era Lucasfilm. I'm biased because I love all 5 of the new films. But when people complain as bitterly as they do, I wonder who they'd prefer to have in charge. The people running DC, the Transformers franchise, Terminator, all pretty disastrous. Even Harry Potter now has 2 films in a row that have almost gone completely forgotten. The only franchise currently doing it better is Marvel. I really think we've been lucky. And as Rob said, who knows what masterpieces are just around the corner. And I was like, yeah, that is truly like not wanting to pick fights with somebody who like, I love this Harry Potter spinoff or whatever. But that's how I feel. I mean, that's where I'm at with all of this stuff. I think he encapsulated it pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I actually enjoyed those films because they felt like books to me, as opposed to like adaptations of books. But I recognize most people don't. And obviously the creator has become a little problematic over the last couple of years, to be nice. On
the Harry Potter ones?
Yeah, on the Harry Potter situation. Yeah. So it's like, well, I don't know what to do about that. Like everyone's going stupid. It just sucks. Yeah. But the reality is, in terms of a studio, like it's the best of all options. And it's not like Lucasfilm was firing win after win in 2012, 2013 anyway. So,
well, you mean Feminist 3D didn't break records?
It did in a way, you know what I mean? Like it proved that a theatrically released Star Wars film can be forgotten.
Yeah.
Live action.
Yeah, Clone Wars didn't do much at all either.
I think Disney, look, people have to remember, like when the Disney movie company, the part of that makes the movies, the live action movies, that's a different division of Disney than Lucasfilm or the animation or the TV. And even the TV doesn't count because there's Disney Channel and ABC. Those are 2 different companies. There's companies within companies within companies within companies. Yeah. So, and it really just comes down to the methodology, the philosophy of whoever's in charge of those divisions. So Feige has his methodology and the brain trust and everything they develop, and Kathleen has her way. And I still think and Pixar has their way, and I still think those three are the better approach than live action Disney, like the Maleficents and the Dumbo movie that.
I can't sit through that shit. I'll be honest with you. I try to watch. I just can't. Like I zone out. I'm just like, I don't get it. It's not for me. And that's fine. But
could you imagine if Michael Bay had been making these things? I mean,
wow. Yeah. I mean, and no. And they gave, I mean, when you got down to it, if in 2012 you had told somebody, who do you want to make Star Wars? I think the popular thing would have been J.J. Abrams, and it's what they did.
For a minute there, I thought you said Hootie, like as in Hootie and the Blowfish.
Hootie and the Blowfish?
Yes.
God.
I want to hold your saber. Like, I just love that guy, Darius. So, yeah, everyone wanted, look, my first pick was Brad Bird. Turns out, Cataline went to Brad Bird. And he said no.
Yeah.
And Brad Bird's Tomorrowland, I love the Mission Impossible.
Yeah, that movie
Ghost
sucked.
Protocol. But Tomorrowland, and
yeah.
So, but again, different movie. So it's when you Wizard fan cast things and you think this director would be good for that material, I have to always remind myself, what do people think I'm good to do? Like, do they just think I'm good to do this one thing? Because I know if you put Rob like on a Big Trouble in Little China thing, I know I could do it, but I don't think people are thinking that.
Well,
at all,
2021 Star Wars fans, Star Wars pop culture media, whatever, wouldn't, if Irvin Kershner was alive and never made a Star Wars movie, would literally make death threats and throw fits if they found out that Irvin Kershner was directing a Star Wars movie. You don't know who's going to do a good one necessarily based off of what they've done. You could guess, but you don't know. And that's where I think I feel bad for Kathleen Kennedy at times. It's like, you don't know where some, like a mostly unproven filmmaker to an extent is going to fall short or not until they're out there doing it. It's like, you do your best, but if you're going to go with younger people, like Gareth Edwards, like, well, what's going to happen? Who knows?
When the Loki show was announced at Comic-Con or D23 or whatever it was, back in 2019, I think it was, who was saying, man, I hope they get Michael Walden to show around it. And Kate Herron would be perfect to direct the episodes, and Natalie Holt would be the best composer. You've never heard of these people. This is why I cannot, for the life of me, maybe it's the same topic, but it's sort of an adjacent, is why casting directors are not given Academy Awards. Because like finding the new talent, and digging that talent out beyond the known base of folks out there. I just don't think is appreciated enough. Right.
Yeah, and to go back to your earlier point, like if I could read one Star Wars script that I haven't read yet right now, it would be the one that Michael Waldron has written. Like, so like that. Yeah, I couldn't have guessed that.
Okay, let me think. Waldron, what he's up to now, or the Aren't.
Oh well, if we're gonna go back, no, you know what? I would go forward. No reason to look back. Yeah, I would rather know the future than the past in this instance.
Wow, you really do like Back to the Future 2 more than one.
I do. I truly do.
I'm just trying to analyze Jason. He really he means that.
Yeah, no, I would, if I had a time machine, I wouldn't go to the past. I'd go to the future, like right away.
You would wear the gravity boots. We don't have that little pizza that turns into the big pizza yet. That's the one piece of tech that I want more than anything else from that show, was because the hoverboard, I'd just kill my face. I'd die. Yeah. I couldn't do that. The 3D Jaws is cool, but you have to go outside.
Yeah, I'm not going outside.
And I'm not going outside, especially in Southern California. And then, but the little pizza that turns into the big steaming perfect pizza.
That's great for storage space.
Yeah, I mean, technically, Rey has that in The Force Awakens.
She does. One of these days we should make, or on the show, I should make Rey bread. It's like a real thing. You can make it. Like I should do it, and I'll make the sounds like the like that robot in drag in the holiday special.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I'll do that.
Forgot about that.
Darth Del Rio, channel member. Thank you, Darth Del Rio. Says you guys were talking on this episode about Obi-Wan should have been Qui-Gon's age in episode 1, which is the concept art. He was older, and there was no Qui-Gon, which I'm sure you know. In the Star Wars Archives prequels book, George talks about how the decision to make Anakin a kid changed a lot of the story, especially having to come up with reasons on why the Jedi would not want to train him, which then changed who the Jedi were compared to his original ideas of what the Jedi Order was going to be. It's an expensive book, but has tons of information I've never seen before. So
it does.
Yeah. This guy right here, he owns it.
Yeah. I just saw that last night, replied. I'm like, that's awesome. So
yeah.
This also was featured a bit in the original art of the episode 1 book, which I guess Rinsler also wrote. Apparently I did not know, because I always liked.
Did he do one?
That's what it said on Amazon, bro. You know
okay,
I mean?
no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not content. I remember he wrote the making of for 3. For sure.
Had him on the Amazon. I don't want to rebuy the book because I own the Photo Archives book now. So I donated about 10 years ago, or 2012, almost 10 years. Wow. I donated pretty much 90% of my library to the library. You know, just too many books. And now, like, the Photo Archives book are my way of getting out of owning a million other Star Wars art of books. So I have this one. But even in there, you'd see the concept art that Doug Chang and
Dougie Fresh, as they call him at Lucasfilm.
Dougie Fresh and Mia McKager, right?
That guy parties
quick.
Yeah,
so quick today. But hold on, little pat on the back.
Yeah, and they don't invite Ryan Church because Church. Come on.
I know. Like they got to dress up for him. He always wears his Sunday's best. Anyhow, what if it's because he eats the chicken? It's like, it's not because I go to church, it's because he eats chicken. Like, gobble, 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 gobble. So, but in there you see the concept art of, like, it's like a black robe Jedi with the ponytails, and like, this was the original Obi-Wan, and this eventually became Qui-Gon. And they didn't say, they may have said the decision was when Anakin became a kid. It was probably like in one of those little bylines. But I just remember going like, why make I mean, I love Ewan McGregor. Would they have cast Ewan McGregor? That's the question. If Anakin were going to be 16 and he met a 30-year-old Obi-Wan, would they have ever cast Ewan McGregor in that role, or would that have gone to Liam Neeson?
No, I don't think so, because the concept art for the older one was Ralph Fiennes. Oftentimes, Ralph Fiennes was used, as was Kiefer Sutherland.
Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Wow. Kiefer Sutherland is. I know. I remember that's an Ian McKeg drawing with the Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah.
I've seen that's in that book. Yeah, I remember that thinking that's very Lost Boys.
Yeah,
it's Rice, Michael.
I never watched 24. I was just doing stuff, just never saw it. But that guy was such a good actor in the 80s. He did so many rad things, and like Young Guns is so good. Like I would love for him to come back into Mando and be, you know, a new cowboy character.
Why do you do this to me, man? Why do you get my hopes up now? Kiefer Sutherland and Mando?
Yeah, that'd be good, right? Wouldn't that be good?
Oh, that would. Yeah, his intensity is amazing.
Yeah. He really. He's just like he's like a good at being a bad guy you like too. You know, which you see like in Lost Boys really, really well. But so let's look over at the chat before I start losing original stuff. How's it going, Mr. Joel? Geek Furia says, I love the prequel trilogy. Also, the prequel trilogy is so poorly fit with the original trilogy via retcon. I'm using retcon correctly to mean retroactively continuity instead of change from continuity, which would be chaffcon. Oh, God damn it.
Is it ChAT-AT or ChAP-CON?
I think ChAP-CON is when you are a little too fat and you walk too far, and you're like, this burns.
You rub up against the con too much, and you get rash con.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to rewatch Iron Eagle to see if it's chaff or chafe. So it's just my excuse to rewatch Iron Eagle.
Yeah, Iron Eagle was pretty rad back then. I wonder if it holds up at all, like even like on like the Cheese Factor level.
On the Cheese Factor, yes, because it has Louis Gossett Jr., the actor David Suchet, who played Poirot in the series Poirot for 30 years, plays the Saddam Hussein bad guy. Yeah. So it's if you ever watch Poirot, which I do, to go back and see Iron Eagle, and you're like, Poirot's Saddam Hussein? Like, this is the strangest. For time and time again, I will tell you.
You're a Queen fan, right? We talked about Queen before,
yeah, One Vision.
Yeah. One Vision kind of that's where that thing hit, was the Iron Eagle movie, man.
That came out the same summer as Top Gun. And people don't remember when Iron Eagle came out because Top Gun was such a hit.
Yeah.
They couldn't work with the US military in Iron Eagle because the military said there's no way a kid could steal a jet. We're not doing that. It makes us look weak. So they had to work with models and Israeli.
Makes us look weak.
Yeah, it does. And then you have it was just hilarious because you go to Top Gun, and this is the 80s when they throw you out the military for being gay, and they have the gayest volleyball scene in the history. Like, it's so amazing. I'm like, they're so oiled. It's so great that Tarantino did an amazing bit with it.
I remember that.
It was a birthday party, right? Or whatever that's called. It was sword fight.
Yeah. I both of those movies, when they came out, I saw them in the theater. Like, I was all about that stuff. But to kind of try to bring it back to Star Wars, that's what makes me excited about Rogue Squadron as a movie, like in terms of like my kid. Like, I think that's gonna be like where my kid's like, oh, flying jets is cool. Like, you know what I mean? Flying spaceships is cool. Like, I don't feel like in the sequel trilogy there were like those moments that were fun with Poe in the X-Wing, but
briefly when they first escaped the Star Destroyer. And they're like, when I thought it was real funny when Poe and Finn escaped the Star Destroyer, and they're like, I'm Poe, I'm so and so, I'm gonna call you Finn. Nice to meet you. It reminded me of when you go to Disneyland when you're a kid, and you'd be on Tom Sawyer's Island, and you'd just make a new friend.
Yeah,
right? And you'd have like a group of kids, and you guys would just quickly have to catch each other up on who's who. Yeah. So you can have a quick adventure before you have to leave the island and go back to your normal day.
Or when you would go to the miniature golf course to play laser tag. And then you're just like,
Golfland. Yes.
This is my team. This is my team now. So, all right, Thrawn, how's it going, dude? Maybe proto parts are the only ones Watto would let him have. Yeah, I seem to remember like Anakin kind of just like was just jacking parts back then.
Yeah, but he wasn't hiding 3PO because 3PO was in Watto's shop with him.
Yeah. I
just go, look, that dude's selling everything. Why wouldn't he sell the kid's droid too? Well, he could help out around the shop. Then why does he need slaves?
Well, he was. I think Watto, as a merchant businessman, was seeing that his mom was being more efficient with the droid, so he was sort of getting 2 slaves out of it. I think that's
thought this way too. You thought this.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
would be a great PR person.
Well, no, it's why he made the droid to help his mom, and then that's what you see him doing. And then also the droid doesn't have coverings and looks like shit. So Watto also may have like underestimated the value. I'm just throwing that out there.
Based on your educated reply, I have a question for MakingStarWars.net. Jason Ward, do you think Lucasfilm needs a continuity PR person? Like someone who just comes out and does PR for continuity?
Yeah.
And should that be you?
I mean, no, it shouldn't be me. They should stay far away from me.
Ben knows his continuity.
Yeah, Ben can do it. Number one, if they ever did that, I would hate to be that poor bastard. Because
it's like that person has to come out to the press briefings at the White House every day and just update you on continuity.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what it would be like. And you kind of had like Pablo Hidalgo doing it, but he so kind of is I don't know how to put it. It just kind of doesn't really seem to like a lot of the fans in general, and gets, I think, probably because he's human, burnt out on answering stupid questions or talking about it when he doesn't want to, and then felt the need anyway for a time to answer them. And so I definitely, and I think that that kind of in a weird way is one of the reasons that like YouTube was able to define Lucasfilm in this with this certain personality based off of that. So yeah, in a way, it would be better if it was an official Twitter account made by Disney Lucasfilm where they literally answered that stuff. At the same time, that they don't want to. Like if something is in question and they don't have the answer, that's a nightmare scenario for them. They want to sit there and have time to think up the reason, and then add a blurb into some other books so it satiates that I gotcha moment by somebody. And they're like, well, it does say in Valley of the Jedi that 3PO was gold and Uncle Owen thought he was going to be silver someday.
It does do C1138. It does. But, so like the serious answer in me, I got a serious and a jokey. The serious answer is this is probably what the Star Wars show, the official Star Wars show should have been about, where you take these continuity questions, they run them through their little PR group, right? Then they have the answers and they answer the ones that they want to, but they feel like they're doing a little continuity PR and they're giving you some kind of like answer that doesn't tank their stock portfolio. You know what I mean by answering the wrong way.
Right.
The jokey answer to me is I think this is like a West Wing. You can get a 3-minute skit on Mad TV of like a West Wing like press briefing thing where it's just these go, okay, we gotta go here. But this Anakin, what happens? But 3PO, and they don't know what 3PO is, and it doesn't make sense if Owen didn't mention him. What do we do? Well, we do this. We go, and they're just walking through the halls of Khan, and then they go out to the Hall H, and then they have to answer like all this stuff. Like there is that,
Yeah. It's I guess it would probably, but what would end up happening, why it would probably be a bad idea in the end, is that they would answer something in one way and then years later it would turn out like the fact could still be taken as true, but the way it was answered wrote them into a corner, and then people be like, all of this is shit, all of this is fake, none of this matters. It's like, yeah, it is fake, it's not real.
Yeah, but I think that's where officially, if the YouTube channel was doing this consistently, right? Like they said, we don't care what the ratings are, we're just going to stick with it. Is they could be educating people. Look, there are realities for production, and this is stuff that's being invented as we go, and it ebbs and flows. And a great idea today may not appear great 3 years from now. Yeah. And a bad idea, an idea that is come up with today that you don't like, you may love 10 years from now. And so, creation is a constant set of evolving and readjusting. And I just think like that conversation, being that they're so stonewalled and they're not educating their audience, right? The ones that want to learn it, not the average people who just go to the theater to get whatever comes in front of them. The fact that they're not doing that, I just think is a disservice and allows the Voldemorties of the internet to just go, this is not my saga. This is just all, it's all just malarkey. They're all just making it up as you go, Rick. I don't get it. I'm just gonna watch Battlestar Galactica. They didn't mess that up, except for the last season where they just kind of did that thing. But forget about it. I don't have to remember.
No, it's definitely true. I mean, like the YouTube channel became is just straight up a PR arm. It's not really anything other than that. Like
cheesy PR.
It's like really cheesy. It's like I see how like the idea was to make it fun, but it's kind of more of a headache. Like when the first
what's her face from Pee-wee's Big Adventure was still alive. God rest her soul. I forget her name. The actress who was she's from Saturday Night Live. Remember she was the Alamo.
Maze.
Nothing in Alamo. Ms. Minutes. Tara Strong's doing, like, every time I hear Tara Strong doing Ms. Minutes, I'm like, it's the Alamo. But that, if I could pick any person to do Star Wars PR, it'd be her. Okay, that's so good for you. All right. Okay, let's talk about Jabba the Hutt.
in SJW what now?
SJW. All right. Well, if you say so. Saturday. Jones and with my whiskey. Okay, let's go talk about some. You want a churro? Only $4 from 3 to 2 a.m. I love her, man. She did a skit on Saturday Night Live only once with Alec Baldwin, where she's doing that like quick talking noir slash. It's like Western slash. I don't know how you describe it. She's in a cafe, and every person she's talking to, she's having one of those like innuendo conversations. You want that hot? You want it with the girls? You want it with the thing? But maybe you don't want the thing. You want the thing. She's doing it. And then Alec Baldwin comes in, and they're basically having a sex talk without ever talking about sex, you know? And it's just one of my favorite skits ever. People don't remember it, you know, but it's pretty good.
If you come across it, send it to me.
I will come across it, because I don't remember the name of the skit, but I will send it to you.
Yeah. Mark Hamilton says, I want to see Han and Chewie on Jabba's crew before they fall out. Han was one of my favorite Jabbas. I want to see that dynamic. It'd be fun. Yeah. That's definitely where a Solo 2 should have or could have went, and I think that was the implication. However, if they don't make Puppet Jabba, don't do it. I want Puppet Jabba back.
Yeah.
I do.
I don't think you can make a puppet Jabba anymore, man. Like, I mean, they could.
Yeah.
I take it back. They could. Yeah, I mean, I'm of two minds on it. I always prefer the puppets over the CGI.
Right.
Except if they tried to make he'd have to just be sitting there. He couldn't move around. Right. But see, the problem is, like, Jabba's moving around in the special edition.
Yeah.
He's agile, you know? So it's like he'd have to move around, I guess, you know, because he's a spry guy. He's not a big hut. He's like a little hut.
Well, I mean, if he's just sitting on his days, and that's like where we always see him, then it would be fine. Or if they were to do a mixture of the two, like one of them could be simply the head that's like a puppet of the head itself that they use for you know, facial expression shots. And I wouldn't mind if they did a mixture of it. It wouldn't make me mad. I would be more concerned because I know that they have like the original like skull, the frame and stuff. But my whole thing would be like, what if?
Horrific.
Yeah,
it's not like rotting like the turtle's head, is it?
No, that's all gone. I believe it's just like the piece with the eyes, and so yeah, I wonder if they would nail it or not. Would it look different? Like, because he's so like the Return of the Jedi one is just so kind of like what it is. Like, would changing the puppet, would it look different in a way that was bad? That's what I wonder.
What's wrong with this guy right here? What's wrong with this one? I'm a fan. Like,
and
he's like, get me out of here.
Yeah, no, and I'm okay with the fact that they upgraded that to the Phantom Menace Jabba. Like, I think that's great. And I think in that scene, you know, like especially then, it would have been really difficult. But but if they do bring Jabba back, it would be cool to see him. Now, if it comes down to like the Mandalorian, and they wanted to put, well, not the Mandalorian itself, takes place after, but something like that, and they wanted to put Jabba in it, and it came down to we could put the CGI Jabba from Phantom Menace in it, or he's just not going to be in it. I would just use the CGI Jabba. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing more Jabba in some capacity, especially with Solo.
I have a question for MakingStarWars.net.
Okay.
The question is, if they're going to bring Jabba back into a Solo sequel or Star Wars, and they use celebrity voice casting, who would you cast as Jabba?
Who would I cast as Jabba?
Yeah, has to be living, because dead it would just be Jackie Gleason. But if get a Diablo sandwich and a Coke on Solo, but
well, I mean, yeah, or it would be Orson Welles if it was dead. Because he looks like Orson Welles. No,
poor Orson.
Poor Orson. Orson got bagged on by that generation pretty hard. God, who would be a good voice for Jabba? I don't even know. Like what celebrity? Oh, it would be Karl Malone, the basketball player, Karl Malone.
He's got that deep voice.
I'm Karl Malone.
Yeah. I was like, do you go with a Shakespearean John Rhys Davies, or do you do alt casting and go, it's Brad Pitt? Because we're just going to modulate his voice anyway, right?
Yeah.
And Brad Pitt goes, so when you played Jabba.
I can't remember now. Was Ben Burt the original Java? My mind.
Damn, on MakingStarWars.net.
Yeah.
I would lose that. I would have to go to multiple choice.
I should know. I do know this. And when I find out the answer, I'm going to be mad that I forgot.
I'm not up to that part in the Rinsler book on Jedi. I did get to the part of some early drafts of Jedi. And I think it was in the second draft of Jedi that Lucas was working on. He did explain Luke's plan in greater detail.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea was that he was trying to draw Jabba out of the palace because as a Jedi, it's easier to fight in the environment than in closed quarters.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So like fighting Jabba in his palace was not a way to win.
Right.
You know, that he would need to draw him out of the palace. Now, doesn't work when he just ends up in a freaking barge. You know, he's still in something. You're not fighting him directly. But, you know, there was a logical thinking that just kind of went out the window around the second and final draft.
Yeah. It was like, let's just make it flow, make it go really fast. You know I don't actually have a problem with Return of the Jedi's logic on that point. You could definitely in reality tear it apart. But
there was another nuance that I thought was better, is that Luke and Leia explained that they, like at the beginning, they had do we help the rebellion now? Because there's 2 Death Stars in that script. And do we help the rebellion now, or do we save Han? And it's like, well, we're going to save Han and then we'll go help. And so it added like this time crunch, like a ticking clock kind of thing to the front of the film.
Right. You know?
Yeah.
And that probably might have been good in some ways. But then again, once she's like enslaved or whatever they're going to call it these days, once she's not Hutt Slayan, but as a Hutt Slayer, it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, that would have felt weird, I guess, because
and if
she's
Brad
just like
Pitt
she's just like relaxing.
Jabba, then she's a Pit Slayer.
Pit Slayer.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Jennifer Aniston goes, yeah. Because she wore the bikini. You see, you got to remember that. People forget like that bikini was popular, but not till Friends. Yeah. The Friends episode is why all those girls would show up to Comic-Con dressed up, because Jennifer Aniston put it on in an episode of Friends and made it super famous again.
Yeah, I remember at Star Wars Celebration 1, there was like maybe one girl who was dressed up as Slave Leia. She was super popular. Weird time.
I made friends with a group of them on Axum. One of them, her name was Sarah Schwartz, and unfortunately she passed like a year after. She was just like, I'm a fan of your art, and I was like, hey, that's totally dope. And she's like, yeah, we're the Leias that go to cons. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, we're all in this hotel room with just the Leias. And you know, like I was like, I'm married. And she's like, I know, but I'm just, you know, I'm like, all right, just so we know. But I was like, there is a show, right? All these girls dress up like Leia's, and then having like which one thinks has the right, more accurate bikini, or the hair, or the drama that goes on. She's like, it's really dramatic in here. And I was like, I just want to know more about this life. Like, this is a life. I've been going to conventions as an artist, but I never thought of it to that point as people that travel in groups of cosplayers. Like, what is their experience?
Yeah.
For going to cons. But
yeah.
Every year I think it's about Sarah a lot. God rest her soul. She was a nice person.
Yeah, that sucks. She's not with us anymore.
No.
Yeah, I as a like teenage boy was kind of weird. I was like, Leia's way hotter in Empire than in the bikini.
With the vest.
Yeah, I was like
vest.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, she was way cuter in that one to me at that time. So like when that happened and that became like the Friends made it like a new phenomenon and stuff, I was in no way against it. Don't get me wrong, but I was just like, oh, okay, that's a thing. So
it's the cinnamon bowl run thing I was never the biggest fan of, you know. I'm not against the hairstyle, but it just something always felt more stagey about that design.
Yeah, well, it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, it like we grew up with it, so on the one hand, it's just like it always was, but when you really, I have a feeling if I was an adult when Star Wars came out and I saw the cinnamon buns, I probably would have been like, I'm not trying that. And then I would have saw it and liked it. But I probably would have been cynical about it based off of how ridiculous that is in certain ways.
I think Aniston she's wearing the cinnamon roll
yeah.
bun, even in the outfit. It doesn't make any sense, right? But
no,
it's like,
they wanted
recognize.
They wanted to make sure you got it, you know.
You get it, you know. I get it, you know.
Yeah. Chandler says, what are some of your fan writing theories for the Kenobi show? I mentioned the Qui-Gon's crystal and Luke's saber I did before, like Ben left in plans in the crystal. You know, that was originally, one of the, I think you're referencing it. Like one of the original ideas was that when Luke doesn't know how to use the Force and how to find Yoda, and Obi-Wan's dead, and he was going to find a talisman in the hilt of the sword that was going to lead him to Yoda, or probably Minch at that point, who we keep talking about. And so like that kind of idea, or that kind of thing, like coming into one of the stories, is I'm surprised it hasn't happened. Like originally, the organization of the Force Awakens was that the saber falls out of the sky and it lands on Jakku, and Luke's saber, I think. And yeah, it was Luke's saber. And then that's what kicked off all of it. It was this like floating hand in space with the
That was my thing with The Force Awakens. I was like, you know, the problem with this movie is they're looking for a map when she should be using the Force. The reason why no one can find Luke is you have to use the Force to find him. So if she finally gets the saber and she actually is using the Force, she could like be in a ship and then find, through the flow of the Force, find Luke.
Yeah.
She has a connection to him. And like that is the spiritual key. Like we're not looking for a map. We're looking for someone who can use the Force to guide me to the original source of all Jedi.
Yeah. The sword is the map.
Because it has a connection. And either way, when you were talking about just shouldn't allow time travel in Star Wars, and I do agree with that, but the scene in the Jedi where she's falling through the different scenes, you know, throughout the history, you know, the when she's in the cave, Maz Kanata's cave basement, and she's flowing through those visions where she's falling
the force back.
That is really something that I wish they had used in Rise of Skywalker, where they're really battling. You know what I mean? They're falling through different scenes, and not just scenes we've seen in the movie, but it could be scenes from Clone Wars, scenes from EU, things, you know, like Futures Possible. You know, you could see scenes from Heir of the Empire that never existed. These are things that could have been, that could be, or never have been. You know, it's all possibilities that the Force flows through multi-dimensions, multi-visions. You know, there's just such a way. And visually, I just thought it was an amazing visual that after seeing Lucas try it with the weird Oculus vision thing with the sweaty, that didn't work. Yeah, I thought that was pretty great.
Yeah.
But to get back to the Obi-Wan thing, you want to wrap that up? I have an idea. I just want you to finish.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Share.
In Rob's world, because I have sadly thought about this, is I would go the Charlie Kaufman route, and I would do an adaptation where there's technically two Bens. There's old Ben, and there's a young adventurous Ben, and adventurous Ben's out there trying to save Vader in the galaxy, and you think that's the whole thing, and he's telling old Ben, you got to get off your ass, kind of thing. But really, it's just old Ben on Tatooine trying to keep this kid from killing himself. He's just out there, go out to the desert, kid's trying to get himself killed again. You know, go back to the hut, work on your shit, get high on some hookah, deal with the Jawas, eat a suka egg, you know?
Right.
And there's this adventurous part. So there's two Bens existing simultaneously in his head, you know? So I know, look, as fans, you don't want it, but I want it. So
no. If they did something more out there, and then you had everything that you would expect in Star Wars on that, I would be for them playing with narrative in a different way. That said, I just don't want whatever it is to be completely fucking mundane because they wrote themselves in a corner 20 years ago, you know, by saying like, oh, and he's on Tatooine waiting for Luke to get old. That would just be the most boring thing ever to me. And I just always go back to, he has this mission and it's to learn how to commune with the living after death, or to retain his identity after death. So I feel like the most obvious, but still the story that could take him on an adventure that is just as important, because it's like when Darth Vader thinks he kills Obi-Wan, he really doesn't kill him. He disappears before he's even touched. But when old Ben disappears and he says, he's going to become more powerful than he could possibly imagine, he does. And in doing so, sort of, they now can help Luke, and they do. And then later on, Yoda's able to come back to Luke again, which helps Rey, which gets us to the end game of that saga. So that is just as important as Luke living, because without that, that is the insurance policy. If Luke fails, if Luke turns, the ability to appear as this Force ghost or as a spirit to somebody, to the next Rey or to the next Luke, is very, very important. And so my hope for the show is that it is about that in some way, and that it like lays out exactly why it's that important, why he would leave Tatooine if he does, which we think he does, for that very reason, because that right there makes it okay. Yeah, you can leave the kid alone for a week because this other thing is just as important, and the kid's probably going to be fine for a week.
Yeah, that's the most original like take on it I've heard, beyond the typical pundit take that, well, he did say when last we met, I was but the learner, and that could be whenever. It didn't have to be in episode 3. And I'm like, yeah. Like when Obi-Wan says, I was trained by Yoda, and he turns out it was really Qui-Gon because George changed it. Yeah. So like, I get it, but your rationale for actually exploring that part of it, and that as actually, a contingency plan in case the kid goes crazy and it doesn't work out, that will still, even if we lose 100,000 years from now, we'll still be able to like contact and reach out to someone. Eventually the Force will create an answer to this, and we'll be able to help them, is the smarter thing. And I also believe that implies you need to bring back Liam Neeson.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to. The way George has set it up, that if Yoda's like, I don't know, he's like, what if Georgia, Yoda,
Georgia,
Georgina,
Georgina Lucas.
Female Yoda. Where's Flannel?
Yaddle.
Yeah, it is Yaddle. Flannel, Yoda, Yaddle.
Yaddle.
Huh. Just thought about that. So what if Yoda's like, he's like, no, you can't talk to the Qui-Gons. I talk to. It's your like you're like a contractor. You're just a contractor. I talk to the Qui-Gons, but he was my master. Yeah. No. I speak to him. I'll speak to him for. What do you want him to know?
Ride's here. Can you guys hear that?
That's Yoda. That's Qui-Gon. Get in the car.
He's Force honking. He's Force honking for me.
We're making A-Team 2. We put the team together.
I love it when a plan comes together. Anyways, Qui-Gon.
Perfect timing. Crackerjack timing.
Qui-Gon is a jerk. I would want Qui-Gon to. I hope Liam Neeson is back, and like in that model of a story or an idea, like as Obi-Wan is opening the story or the film, the series, he hasn't yet mastered how to do it, and obviously we can't have him die, and we can't see him die. And come back as a Force ghost in it. So if he completes that mission, you run into the problem of, well, okay, he learned it, but we can't see it. So the series itself doesn't get that payoff. So I would say that the payoff would be he is able to help Qui-Gon form entirely in that moment. And then that would be the visualization of him understanding how to control the power.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Are the Inquisitors running around in episode 4?
Yes.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
So, because I was like, if they aren't, then maybe he he goes, man, they're just making little would-be Sith Jedites, you know, and that Luke can't take that. Maybe I got to deal with these. Like I gotta clear all the pawns before we can get to the rooks and the king and the queen kind of move, you know.
Right.
But if there's technically running around, how does that look? I know you're gonna be, Rob doesn't watch all the shows. No, I don't. I make shit. Okay. I don't have time to watch all of it.
Yeah, no worries.
But like, how do they reconcile that there's literally other Sith characters that just none of them were on the Death Star? None of them were.
Yeah, well, we get it running. We get it going up to Rebels goes up to like A New Hope, basically. For most of the series, Ezra Bridger is about the same age as Luke and Leia, and he ends up is the one who's like out there, like actually like fighting most of them. It seems like, at least in that series, but we don't know how many there really are. So there could be a ton, but we know that they all have like individual numbers. So if there's, I'm the 3,737th sister, that's going to be really lame. But what you do have is, yeah, I think you do get them probably cleared out a bunch by Kenobi in this series, maybe, and then
Inquisitor Civil War. They all fight one another.
and then they're all like ex Jedi or people with the ability to use the Force who were then converted over. Like I don't think you ever saw it, probably, if you didn't see all of the Clone Wars, but there's this there are these. Oh, you know that Ahsoka arc I said that maybe you might want to watch?
Yeah, with Tarkin, where she's
and
everything.
We learn about this subsect of the Jedi Order that have yellow. I think they have yellow. Do they have yellow? Yeah, I think they have yellow lightsabers.
The rays. Okay.
Yeah, and they all have like these masks, and they're sort of like Jedi cops. They are essentially what becomes, and the main one who we see in the Clone Wars later on, we learn, is the main Inquisitor in Rebels. And so Palpatine went and he kind of found the ones that had a disposition for authority or greedy and wanted power, and exploited that to make the Inquisitor program. And there's also some other hints that I don't know if they will pay off in this way, but we did see, like, there was a point where Cad Bane was stealing children for some secret Palpatine program or plan, and I have a feeling they probably were going to become Inquisitors eventually, was the idea. But yeah, so like you know, if I was to take the Obi-Wan thing, like that's the theory that I like the most. I just don't like it. It's great. Going to be great to see Obi-Wan. It's going to be great to see, you know, Ewan McGregor back as him. But I don't want him to see him just going into like Cobb Vanth's bar and just being like, I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi, don't you love I'm back, you know, and all that stuff. Like, it would just get really boring to me.
Being that Obi-Wan is going to fight or come against some Inquisitors, it would be interesting to see if he's able to implant an idea that fucks them all up, where he goes, look, what do you think? They killed all the Jedi Order. What do you think they're going to do with you when they're done with you?
Yeah.
Like, if he can get them to go, oh, that's right, the Emperor will eventually kill us all because he can only be one, right? Like,
yeah,
then they have a little infight, or it leads to an infight thing that branches off that series, where you sort of see them, you know what I mean, sort of take themselves out. Like, you know, when you have a heist and you need to like, I'm not cutting these shares, let me get all the heisters to like turn on one another so I can keep all the money, kind of thing, you know? Like,
yeah, but we do know that 10 years later, essentially, they are going strong. And
so weird.
But what could be interesting is, like, for instance, like the kind of idea of, if when he does encounter the first Inquisitor, if he was able to turn them to the light side, get them to quit, make them remember who they were, and then that makes him, in a moment of hubris, think, maybe I could save my old friend Anakin or something like that. Like that, you know what I mean? Like, if I did it for Stefanovitz Gutenbergjen, who's played by Steve Gutenberg. If I could turn him back to the light side, maybe I can do it for Anakin. Like
the Mahoney-Lorian.
The Mahoney-Lorian, yeah. I'm all about it. I would, yeah.
I'm on a roll today, folks. My wife's gonna really hate me. I can tell. Today's the day I get the side eye because I'm gonna do that during shows.
There's a moment where Darth Vader meets another woman named Padme Tackleberry. Huh? Come on. Yeah.
She's really into blasters. Yeah. She pulls out the DL40 because I know I'm close. I know I'm close, Scrimshaw. So like
no, but it's like everything, like things are sort of like compartmentalized, you know? Like the Mando can't in essence answer a strange, mystical, huge component of the Force or even contribute to it. So when you have Obi-Wan Kenobi, when you're pulling him out of the toolbox and putting him into play, like this needs to satiate what Cassian can't do, what Mando can't do. It really has to. And if it doesn't, then what a shame. You know what I mean?
If it's totally surface where they're just like, we just got him back, goes on an adventure, comes back, resolve. I think your thing, like the subtext or the real adventure, like the catalyst adventure in a way, is that he has to perfect this. And then, you know, that's probably when, see, the thing I don't understand is there's the other thing you brought up where he realizes there are these Inquisitors and they could hunt Luke, so he has to take them out, you know, and that puts him in a position where like, I can't protect the kid from 50 freaking would-be Sith Jedi, you know, like there has to be something else. But I do think that the spirituals, because there has to be some Forcey spiritual side to it to make it have weight, you know? And that is that the learning of the thing that goes beyond George just inserting a line into 2 hour and 5 minutes of a 2 hour and 15-minute movie. You know, I've been talking to an old master, I'll teach you some stuff. And then you go, oh yeah, I know. Like that was one of those things. I was just like, I can't, what a wasted opportunity. Because if it were a competing, and it looked like in the Phantom Menace that there was going to be this competing theory between Qui-Gon's the living force, which Yoda seems to be way into by Empire, where he's on Dagobah, you know, living with snakes and no technology, right? He's just living with snakes and lizards and mogwais and those little creatures from the Flight of the Navigator with the berries.
Making soup.
Yeah, making soup, dude. He's making soup.
Turtle soup.
Hampton Fancher would be very impressed.
Yeah.
So, and then the whole, we have a duty to you know, save the galaxy from itself. Religious, you know, like police like order. We know better. We can protect everyone from killing themselves, and they can.
Yeah.
You know, because for the greater good for 10,000 years, where they're planning for the future where he's living in the moment. You know, like there's a theory, there's a belief system there that's in conflict, and I'm like, that's amazing. But if it just ends up being surface level, beat for beat, like George pulls out, oh, I got the yellow pad, hold on, you know, bam, I'll just write it down. Obi-Wan's old. Okay, that's one. Obi-Wan's old. No. 2, leaves planet. 3, comes back. Okay, you know.
Make sure to put gray in beard. Yeah, no, it's
the technology.
No, and like the other ways I think that you could take it would be like the you know the knight on a crusade kind of thing, but even the stuff with that, like where you would get into it in this fantasy movie, like the knight would fight a dragon or something. We got the Krayt Dragon in Mandalorian like already.
Oh,
and so
I know. Right?
Yeah, so if they were to do like the Great Dragon that way, it would be like, well, we kind of already seen that in the show. Like he was
friends with a dragon in episode 3. He couldn't kill dragons.
He was mocking it. He was like, oh, look,
that's the one death in that movie I actually felt bad for, when the little dragon lizard falls and goes. Oh, I was like, oh.
Oh,
like, I actually, yeah,
Boga?
I legit, like, I was a hardened fuck this movie guy when it came out. I don't even want to be here. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh,
yeah,
this is buddy. Like,
and then they've since changed Boga's scream in A New Hope. It's a whole new one. It's a whole new one now. They can't stop. Won't stop.
Wait, they changed his little buddy in Revenge of the Sith?
No. There was a time when in A New Hope, Obi-Wan made Boga scream to scare the Tusken Raiders.
Right. He changed to the. I thought that was supposed to be the Krat Dragon scream.
Well, they changed it to the Boga, and
Wow.
and then now it has been changed. Now it's a whole new one. Now he's just like going, whoa! He's like going crazy.
Why mess with that at all? Like, I don't understand. Like, we're George. Wouldn't it be fascinating to just go shopping at Albertsons with George Lucas, and then he just changes his, we're not putting beans in the chili now. We're putting orange.
Yeah. I mean, he put like the piece of rock in front of R2.
It was citrus con carne originally. That was the intention, but now it's chili.
I mean, before the Mandalorian, I didn't care because Great Dragons were something I fought in Star Wars Galaxies, and they were kind of irrelevant. And then so now with now that we see it and it plays in more, it's on screen. Now I'm a little bit more like, okay, it matters a little bit more. But at the time, it didn't. I mean, if Tuscans heard a Boga coming to eat them, they would have run. It was the same effect. And it being a Great Dragon thing, that was only some stuff we got in some novels later on. I don't think we ever had any idea.
I'm not coming at it from a fan who was like, why change the thing that was my thing and I love it? That's not it. It's why is that the thing that you change?
Well, I know the answer though.
But I know you'll finish it. Let me just finish my sentence. Why is that the thing you change when Luke's lightsaber still is white in 3/4 of these special edition scenes when it should be fixed? Like, I don't understand.
Well, changing a sound effect doesn't cost much of anything, but it was originally I think a stock Hanna-Barbera sound effect.
They didn't want to pay the licensing.
I don't know if it was that. They had been using it for years. I don't know if it was a licensing thing.
They just
I think it was just like literally like Ben Burt didn't have the time to create a sound effect for it.
Well, then why didn't they just go with Huckleberry Hound?
Right.
Or Snagglepuss. Hey, everybody, what are you doing to Luke?
Yeah. Oh, no, it's Snagglepuss.
Heavens to Bithies.
Yeah. Yeah. So when they were doing late game changes in those releases, that's why it kept changing. And then by the end of it, they actually did make a sound effect. I could be wrong. It might even have been Matt Wood who made the sound effect for it. Who kind of was like the voice of Grievous and the Battle Droids and pretty much the new Ben Burt. He was like Ben Burt's. He was Ben Burt's Sith apprentice and then took over.
He's Ben Du.
Yeah, he's Ben Du. D'Angelo says, I seriously think Star Wars is the only franchise that's just getting more exciting. Kenobi, Man of 3, Fett, Ahsoka, and so much more. Marvel seems to be boring and lame post Endgame.
Yeah. Agree to disagree.
Yeah,
but. They're both excited. Yeah. I'm sorry, man. Like, I'm not, my taste in comics were always independent.
Yeah.
Like Turtles, Bone, eventually Image, just because, hey, if you're going to be successful, glad the artists are getting paid, not the corporations.
Right.
But the spirit of the Marvel universe of creating this continuity that goes over so much, like, I'm fully in it. It's literally... I'm enjoying this. They've done more with 23 movies plus 4 or 3 or 4 is it 3 TV series now? It's 3 TV series. Mm-hmm. Than I thought anyone would be able to do, and I'm not bored. So I mean, I get he feels that way, but I don't. Look, Twitter trending. I'm sure if Google brought up the analytics over how the engagement rate is on Marvel post Endgame, it's quite high.
Yeah.
And the only reason why none of us can get super excited about movies right now is because the theaters are broke.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what you go, I don't do Black Widow. No, the theaters are broke. I'm not going to a theater. I'm not getting excited about going to a theater. I'm not lining up Thursday to take my wife to go get a pizza and a beer right before. We're not doing any of that. We're just trying to find a way to survive and keep caught up.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. So, and if they were like, we were releasing let's say episode 9 didn't come out in 2019, right? They were like, we'll give JJ the time. And they got caught up in the pandy, and they've been holding it, and then they're like, oh, we'll release it in July. It still would not have dragged out me. Like, there's a grip of us that we're not going to the theater to see it. And you would say, well, it's because it's over. It had its day. No. It needs to stay at home until it's safe to go to a theater for the rest of us.
Yeah.
So I get he says that, but I just don't see that being the overall opinion.
When it comes to the Marvel stuff, I don't really follow it close enough. So like I didn't know I wanted WandaVision. I didn't know I wanted Loki. In fact, if you had asked me if I wanted either of those things before, I would have said no. That said, being a Star Wars fan, Star Wars always sounds better to me than anything else anyways. So I agree.
Fair enough.
But Geek Furious says, if fans were good at casting or hiring directors or knowing who is a good writer for a specific show, they'd be working in Hollywood. You'd think so.
Well, sometimes they do, though. That's how you get Rosario Dawson playing Ahsoka. I mean, Boss Logic makes that poster because the fans demand it, and that's how that actually fan casting worked. So it's weird. Patrick Stewart was Professor Xavier because of Wizard Magazine. Like that. Yeah, that's true.
Halle Berry as Catwoman, which I don't even know if that was good. I never saw it, but
movie's not good. She would have been a great Eartha Kitt type. If the movie was there. The problem with that movie, by the way, because I was way into reading scripts at the time, was that Catwoman script leaked way in advance when Ashley Judd was attached to it. Okay. And it was like a Clueless kind of movie with, her name was Patience Price. And she lived in this community that was very like the city, like the town in Edward Scissorhands, where it's very 50s-ish over suburbia. It was like that. Okay. And it was just this weird fucking thing, man, where you're like, why is... But it wasn't Kim Basinger's Catwoman. Like, they were never...
Oh, you mean Michelle Pfeiffer?
I mean, Kim Michelle Pfeiffer, yeah, I know, Kim Basinger. Why? How could you do it?
That's Vicky Vale, you idiot!
Yeah. God! Well, but it was not Vicky Vale originally in the script. It was Silver Sable, not Silver Sable. There's another chick named Sable Silver, something like that. Okay. When Steve Englehart wrote the script in 1986. See, I know my Batman. Don't start. Yeah, okay. So, anyhow, that movie gets taken over or gets handed out of the production house when Ashley Judd turns it down, because rightfully so, it was a horrible script. Mm-hmm. And goes to, I don't know how it ended up in, what's that guy is the director's name? Poitoir? Nivar Novi. He has like a single word name. The director is just... He has a single word name, man, that I don't remember.
We call him Frenchie, the director.
yeah, Frenchie. Yeah, so Frenchie. Good old Frenchie came over, took over the film, and it became the blockbuster film that we all know today, Catwoman. Like, oh shit, son. But there is, I mean, when Eartha Kitt took over for the Julie Newmar role, she just appeared out of nowhere in season 3, and I don't even think she got to complete that. I think they brought in another white actress the last 2 appearances of Catwoman in the 60s Batman. It was weird how that happened. When she took over, she was memorable, Yeah. Super Eartha Kitt, super memorable. And I kept thinking, like, if you were to do the Eartha Kitt Catwoman, Zoe Saldana is your girl, man. Like, she got the moves. Because that was, and I felt that seeing the Pirates of the Caribbean in 2003, because I came out of Pirates of the Caribbean going, I love this movie. Who was the pirate girl on the ship that that actress Zoe? This is amazing. She's good.
Yeah, I remember hearing that Julie Newmar was going to be Catwoman in the movie, but she had a different film, like an actual film. She
turned it down for a different film,
and then she couldn't do it. And I think that's when everything got switched around, right?
Yeah, but Catwoman. The movie actress fooled me when I was a kid.
You thought it was Julie Newmar?
When I was a kid, yeah. I couldn't tell the difference. Yeah. Like in the way that people couldn't tell the difference between Rey and Rogue One's lead actress. I can't remember. They all blend.
Jyn Erso? Between Rey and Jyn Erso.
Generic white actress. Sorry.
Jyn Erso. Jyn Erso.
Too many Jins. Din Djarin's. Jins, man. What's with the Jin?
I know. I broke that her name was Jyn. And when I was breaking it, I was like, would they really do that? Like, I was like really going back and forth because I had only seen it written down. It was written down and given to me. And I was like, it's going to be, maybe it's like Jen, because it was Jyn, like looking at it, I'm like, oh man, this is a pain in the ass.
My hope, my fan theory hope was, you remember between episode 1 and 2, there was a book called Rogue Planet.
Wait, in what?
In Star Wars, there was a book before episode 2 came out. They released a book that took place in between 1 and 2 called Rogue Planet.
Yeah.
And one of the main characters in that book was Wraith Sinar, the guy that was in charge of Sinar fleets and built all the Imperial shuttles. And there was a relationship between him and Tarkin,
right?
Which when the fan casting, well, not the fan casting, but the rumors that Gabriel Byrne was in episode 2, I thought he was going to be Wraith Sinar. And you were going to see this, coalition between, Sinar and Tarkin and building out the Imperial fleet. And when they announced Rogue One, I'm like, what if it's Wraith's daughter? Like this kid who's like, my dad's a capitalist, crazy, Nazi guy, and I'm going to sabotage the whole thing, I thought for a second, because Rogue One, Rogue Planet, like it would also have a dual meaning, right? No way. You're doing too much thought, Rob. That's where I go, God bless you, Ben. Like that's a smart, logical, calculated, thoughtful. They don't even remember they made a Rogue Planet book. Lucas was like, what?
D'Angelo reminded me that Kenneth Branagh would have made a great 30-something Kenobi in episode 1.
That was the Force.net's casting in 1995.
No, that was a rumor that was in magazines as early as I want to say 1990, 1990, 91.
Really?
Yeah.
91?
Yeah.
And
they were saying that it was planning on using Kenneth Branagh, and when they went with Ewan McGregor, I always thought there was probably some truth to that, because he does in a lot of ways look like a younger version of Kenneth Branagh.
There's a variant timeline, my friend, to use the parlance of a franchise that's dying, apparently, where Obi-Wan was played by Kenneth Branagh and Anakin was Leonardo DiCaprio.
Right.
And that legitimately almost happened, right? And so
DiCaprio was almost Anakin, as was what's that movie with Reese Witherspoon where they're like all mean?
It's not Mean Girls. I know what you're talking about. It's crying something.
It's like I think like there's like, I hate to go there. I think there's like incest in it at the end. Like,
no, I know what you mean. There's a real like
cruel intentions. Cruel intentions. Yeah, that guy, Ryan Felipe. Is that his name?
Felipe. Yes. Yeah, I knew you were going there. That's why I said cry.
Yeah. He was up for Anakin, and they talked to Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah.
I hate to say this,
Rick's choice.
I give Michael Jackson all the credit in the world. All right.
Michael Jackson?
Right, I do, in terms of the rumors. But there was an interview where he described Macaulay Culkin as having bee-stung lips. And I was like, probably should not say that, Michael. And Ryan Felipe, when I saw him, like, he has bee-stung lips. Like, I was like, we're just gonna. We need to, Mike. We got other things. Just come out the room. Let's go do some PR. Let's go do some signings. Let's hold a baby out a window.
Yeah, I didn't say that. Here's my baby over the window.
I could have been Jar Jar. I mean, look, in that same variant timeline, Michael Jackson was Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah,
I mean, this all almost happened.
What a weird Star Wars that would have been. That was like to talk about Burt Reynolds being Han Solo and Walter Matthau, but Michael Jackson is Jar Jar Binks, and Leonardo DiCaprio and Keira Knightley as Padme.
In the not so distant future, the technology will get there with deepfakes, and YouTube actors will definitely be able to do just impersonations, forget real acting. And someone will make this version of episode 1 using deepfakes and impersonations, and we will actually see these things. Like I'm willing this into existence today. I believe I can do it.
How about somebody just skips back and goes back to the original thing, and let's just put Burt Reynolds and Walter Matthau in A New Hope. Let's just see all those scenes, because I want to see Walter Matthau as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Burt Reynolds with the stash, or Burt Reynolds in
always with the stash? God, I fell asleep watching YouTube the other night, and I think we probably had said Burt Reynolds too many times with the apps that listen to us when we don't think that they are.
They're learning.
I wake up in the middle of the night, and it's showing me like it's like some older man who makes like, let me tell you about the old history of this cowboy movie you never seen before. And like, he's like, it's like one of those, and it's this Burt Reynolds one. Right. And like this guy was like there was Burt Reynolds, like the main star lady, and then like her boyfriend, and her boyfriend was kind of in the movie. I think I was kind of sleeping, so I'm not sure about that part. But anyways, Burt Reynolds goes and he takes the starlet back to his room, and they're doing what they do, I guess. And then the boyfriend comes in, and then he gets like beat to death and he dies. Like I think that's what happened. I need to watch it because I was like half asleep. But like basically Burt Reynolds killed the dude and banged his girlfriend. And it was
in
cool.
the 90s, a buddy of mine, and I swear this happened, but I'm not doing the research. Yeah. Is he brought over a porno cassette because he said Burt Reynolds is in this porno. I was like, what? And it was them playing poker, and Burt Reynolds is at the table, and there's a girl under the table doing what you would imagine happens. And he gives you that look at the camera. You know, the Smokey and the Bandit look?
I bet you it was like some illegal thing where they intercut footage from another movie and made it look the same with the Salacious Act. Didn't he do like Playgirl or something? Like he's like naked on like a bear.
Well, I had an active subscription in the 80s. So
I mean, as my friend who knows these things,
I know Trump was in Playgirl. There was a contest. You know that? Win a date with Donald Trump in Playgirl magazine. Go look it up if you don't believe me.
Oh, I believe you.
It exists.
That's why he is our Christian president.
Yeah, don't get me started. So, quick trivia question. Do you know what Burt Reynolds' last role would have been?
Oh, I actually just came across this somewhere, but no, I don't remember now. I just
Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, Once Upon a Time. Yeah, I remember it was. I saw Quentin Tarantino talking about Boogie Nights, and about like the big flaw in Boogie Nights was his character. Because it was based off of a real film director and who knew good movies. And in Boogie Nights, he's like, "This is my masterpiece," or something like that. And he was like, "No, he wouldn't have said that. That's the one flaw in Boogie Nights," is what he says. And that's where I saw that. Yeah, he brought it all back. White Rabbit says, "Haven't even watched the last three and can't remember the first three. Star Wars is the with the Jewish space lasers, right?" Yeah, close. Chandler says, "You slugs look like you belong right alongside Jabba."
He's just licking my back, keeping me cool. This is how I keep cool in the heat. He just gives me a little, I go, nice and cool neck.
On today's Burt Reynolds talk, we get back to some more Burt Reynolds. White Rabbit says, "Can't get over the Sally Field film with him. Creepy role. Always imagine him with the wallet chain."
Smokey and the Bandit? Would they have Nook in the middle of the movie and people don't catch it?
I like that he keeps his hat on. That's what Indiana Jones should have done too. Josh says, "Kiefer Sutherland being in Star Wars would be amazing. 24 is such an amazing show, and Jack Bauer is so cool." Yeah, I have a feeling it'll happen.
He can come back as Manny Bothans for Rogue
2. Yeah. Did you see the stuff about Odenkirk, the guy from Better Call Saul?
Breaking my heart, bro.
Yeah. I hope that dude's okay. And I was like, you know what? That guy would be badass in Rogue Squadron. He looks like he could have played a Rogue Squadron member 20 years before in the original trilogy. He looks like, "Good shot, Jetson." I could see him saying it. So when he's okay, get him in Rogue Squadron too. Make him like Wedge Antilles' his best friend we never knew about.
He should be that guy in the room that goes, "You can't ever hit the thing with the torpedo." It's nah. And then Luke goes, "I've been doing it all the time." And he gives him, "Listen, this
fucking guy."
And he gets him going.
Yeah. Do you watch I Think You Should Leave?
No.
It's a skit comedy show on Netflix, and he's in it. Okay. And it's like the last thing I probably saw him in. It's probably my favorite sketch comedy show besides The Whitest Kids You Know. And
what about The State? You a big State fan?
State was good. State holds up in some ways, but still, I like Whitest Kids You Know, and then I Think You Should Leave, and also
check it out.
Kids in the Hall, love that too.
Kids in the Hall is the greatest.
Yeah.
Just because putting Scott in that role doing what he did in the 80s is the bravest thing that come out of the 80s.
Yeah.
You cannot, Scott Thompson in Kids of the Hall, people cannot understand how it was openly okay to murder gay people in the 80s amongst Americans. Like, and that show, it was my favorite everything as a kid. So
yeah, he did a really good job of being like, you know, playing like a character with like a drink in his hand and going like, I'm gay and I don't care what you fucking have a problem with it. That was kind of like what he would do.
7 minutes.
Yeah, it's like monologues that were fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think you should leave out. Check it out.
Yeah. Odekirk's in that, and he plays. There's a sketch where there's like a guy and his little girl wants to go out for ice cream. And he's like, "Oh no, the ice cream stores are closed because it's cold today." And like he winks at the guy next to him, and that's him. And then he starts playing into it, and he's like, "Yeah, and I have 2 Lamborghinis." and then he's just like, and it's just like, and he's all, "No, I have triples of the Lamborghinis." He just keeps getting worse and worse. But the show is so good. I love it. Joel says, Sleep With Me was the movie Tarantino was talking about Top Gun. Okay. Yeah. You could probably just look up the monologue on YouTube now too.
The monologue is the only scene I've seen of that movie. It's the only one I just sword fight.
Yeah, Martin Sheen is pretty old now, White Rabbit. Cole says, when do you expect them to release a Book of Boba Fett trailer?
Let me answer. I know the answer.
You know the answer.
Right after DC releases a trailer for a new movie. Like, whatever hype DC gets, then Marvel or Disney just throws something else to shut it up. They do it every time.
Yeah. Like when it comes to these shows and like how they did like the Mando trailer, I want to say I would have to look it up because I don't remember exactly, but I feel like Mando season 2, that trailer came late. Like it came really
right
close.
Before.
Yeah, like
I'm
maybe
for that though. I don't like waiting 6 months for a TV show trailer, man. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's good at all. You know?
Yeah. It is one of those when it comes to the TV show. The idea is like a little bit different in the sense that you want people to go, oh, I could go watch that now. I need to go on Disney Plus and get that. But at the same time, if they did do it, you might have a bunch of people who go and get Disney Plus now on accident who don't need it yet. So who knows how that business works? I don't know. Oh, what does Geek Furious say? Geek Furious says they're making it up as they go. Yes, that's how creativity works. It's true. I have a feeling that it maybe, this is a big maybe, but maybe with the pandemic over the last year, how slow things got, maybe there is more planning going on than was previously possible because of, you know, the thing that they actually have the time to do it maybe more than before. That's what I'm hoping. So yeah. Mark Hamilton says, what is Droopy McCool doing in a cuddle puddle with Jabba? First game Jabba's Palace or Burning Man? Yeah. Droopy McCool, he gets around, man. He's like the Mick Jagger of those guys. Bootsy says Jan Hooks was hilarious in William Shatner SNL episode from '86. They did the Sweeney sisters for the first time, and William Shatner was her boyfriend at a Christmas party. He only hosted once.
Yeah, the Get a Life episode.
Yeah. White Rabbit says Dave Chappelle or William H. Macy job.
William H. Macy is William H. Macy is the hut that I'm cooperating here. I'm cooperating. You know, like, I don't. You know, I could definitely see him playing like Salacious Crumb.
Yeah. Dell says hello to everybody. White Rabbit says I probably should watch Star Wars. Thought this channel was about something else. Boy, do I feel like an idiot. No, don't worry. This is also a Burt Reynolds podcast now. That's cool. And what else we got? Dale says, son of a, I just realized old Ben Kenobi had force projected himself on the Falcon. You can interact with the real world as force projection. And then so afterwards, he just kind of like gets off that planet after Return of the Jedi and just goes and just chills. Does his own thing. Chandler Dyson says, off Star Wars topic, have you guys listened to the Rendlesham Forest recordings? really chilling and would be cool to listen to on a Saturday UAP episode.
It's because they're all high as fudge.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I believe you're the one who introduced me to it, to the theory.
They played them the first time they were on Coast to Coast.
They were doing a lot of LSD experiments in the area.
Literally within 10 miles.
Yeah,
at another military post. And so when you get that this occurred over a 3-day period, you don't need to be that high to be suckered into things. I believe that I like a lot of UFO thing, but the more I look at the facts of the Rendlesham Forest case and the ancillary data, I believe it was more of like how would they react if they saw this experiment that was going on in the 80s rather than it was real.
But that said, if I discount that theory, it is one of my favorite ones. It is it's like, if it was just a movie, it would be awesome. White Rabbit says, Britton Roswell, Mark Felton is a good clip of that, but he comes at it from a historian's perspective. I don't know. Legally Blonde. Oh, they're trying to name the movie I couldn't remember earlier. So I'm just getting caught up.
You got it.
Richie says, any news on Kenobi you might be releasing soon? Maybe.
NSYNC confirmed?
Yeah, I hope so.
They're coming back.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have I am hearing stuff, but we will have to see how that goes. That is the one downside about doing this show daily as opposed to weekly. Is every day people are like, is he going to do something? No.
Yeah, but I gotta be it's unfair to you to expect people to go every time Jason shows up, he has the answers to the secrets to the universe. Because look, if you had no interesting takes, then I'd be like, shut up, Scoops boy. But you and I'm sure you have 3 Lamborghinis, but I think you legitimately have very rational, well thought out opinions and takes. That's why I was watching the show before. I'm not I get you'll drop some stuff, but your takes on stuff are pretty well thought out. So
and things have to hit the right time when I do hear something, I could talk about it. And just because I hear something,
when you did the YouTube video where you had dropped a bit of news and you were like, okay, I'm going to talk about it here. And you did it for 15, 20 minutes. You brought up a good point. The problem is people are going to ask you questions about that scoop that could get people in trouble.
Yeah.
And I remember typing in there that's something I hadn't really thought of before all these years. If you're hey, NSYNC is in Kenobi. It's not. But let's say you're that was the thing,
They were the freshest, flyest Inquisitors ever. And then people, through the power of dance, he turned them back to the good side.
And then people are like, okay, so what song do they play? And then you're like, I don't know, if I let them know it's this song and not that song, then I'm going to get my source in trouble. I mean, there's all these things. How do you, even when you put a scoop, let's say you put a scoop tomorrow on the site, talking about it here could open up a wealth of problems for you. Should I be the one how do we handle that? Do we just ignore it? Do you say it's on the site, you say what it is and then leave it?
I just basically put the report in the report, say what I could say, and then just don't deviate from it after that, and that's...
Is it when people see when they let the pundits go see an early review and they can only do a review on social media?
Mm-hmm.
So then if they have a YouTube show, they read their review off the social media.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and they go, that's what I have to say.
Yeah, that's what I said. There it is. Yeah. I kind of didn't do YouTube back in the day for that reason, and when they finally put streaming on and stuff like that, I kind of stayed away from it for that very specific reason. But at the same time, it's I've always tried to be upfront, when I put out the Inquisitors thing, here's the parameters of what I know for sure. And so I would always be okay with talking about that. You know what I mean? What I said, and then hearing what people think from there. But it is and hopefully it never happens on this show, But what is a huge bummer is like when you get like a big like story or a scoop, and then you put it out there, and you think like everybody's going to be excited to hear this news, and then people don't like the idea, so then they're like mad at you and mad at it, and it's like.
Or inversely, when you broke all that stuff on Ragtag, and it seems people don't care, and I'm like, this is one of the coolest fucking things that didn't happen.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, the more I find out about it, you know, the more you go into it. It's like, this is the game we all were looking for. Seriously, like this was a big deal, and it didn't happen. And it didn't happen to the point where Iger made a phone call over it.
It's so weird. That one was such a I'll never understand. I'll never understand why they didn't like try and salvage it into something else too. Like that the performers like acted the whole movie essentially. It was essentially a movie, and they filmed the whole thing and did like the motion cap for it, and like the fact that like, it could probably be salvaged into something else, and the fact that it was just like, no, just let it die. That's so weird to me.
Not for nothing, I have worked on some projects that have never been announced that were canceled. Nothing Star Wars, but some big stuff, and we didn't get nearly as far in some cases as Ragtag did. And I can only imagine, like, knowing how I felt when that happened, I'm like, oh man, dude, to get that far, like to do performance capture and to have worlds built, everything's there, and it just needs the 18 to 24 months to round it all out, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, we don't want to, we want you to use the thing we already built. Don't build nothing else, because that's how we is at EA. Like, and that's what I felt. Like, it was just one exec who was like, why are we spending money on something we already own? We already own it. You can't do it, don't make the game. There, done. Like, it's such a stupid, like, CEO thing to do, you know?
Yeah. It really, really, I mean, is like the biggest letdown I know of ever, since the current era of stuff. White Rabbit says, sorry, they called the UFO sighting in 1980 Rendlesham Forest the British Roswell, I believe. And there was another UFO story that I've come across a couple of times too. I don't remember where it was, but it was like a woman who sees like some like UFOs outside, and it was a little bit more recent. That story is really, really fascinating too. I'll try to remember what it's called, and when I do, I'll say it on the show, because you probably know it.
The Australian UFO stuff I'm most interested in these days.
Yeah, that stuff is pretty fascinating. That one podcast you sent me was really good about the with the Australian journalist. What's that show called? Do you recall?
It's called Somewhere. Okay, the podcast is called Somewhere in the Skies with Ryan Sprague.
Yeah,
and it's the most recent episode with the journalist who put out a book over there, but to get it overseas licensing and publishing deals, it's owned he put out a little doc that's owned by the TV station that he works for. So it's eventually coming over here. You can bootleg it, but the interview is great. He's extremely articulate and gets into the history of Australian UFOs, and also the Australian government's relationship with the US government and the type of experiments. Like, they even did nuclear testing out in the outlands of Australia, and there's parts that you just can't go to, you know, because they just wantonly, you know, with wanton destruction.
Yeah.
Just nuking stuff out there for a period of time, you know.
That's wild. Yeah. Josh says, I've always felt bad for Todd Stashwick with Ragtag not happening. He's super cool dude and huge Star Wars fan. He's great in the show 12 Monkeys. I hope he gets to be in Star Wars at some point. Yeah, Stashwick was not only going to play the role of Dodger, he was going to or he was one of the head writers on it with Amy Hennig. And I always thought that was an interesting relationship between having the main character be one of the writers on the show, you know, like that has, how would that be bad, you know? And like I said, I made a little documentary about it, if you will, a short video about 15 minutes long, and I show all the concept art that I had, and I showed off what the plot was according to my sources, and it was cool. So check that out if you never have, and you're curious about what the story was, because the only like part about it that like kind of works, kind of doesn't, is like they're using the remains of Alderaan to make a super gaseous weapon, And but my only problem with the story by the end of it is the Empire literally is incentivized to destroy more planets to get the gas. So
it's a silent green of weapons.
Yeah. So like in doing that, it's like, why wouldn't they have, once the Death Star laser was ready to go, why don't they just start doing it to get that weapon? You know, that's like the only kind of catch-22 thing about it. And that could have been fixed really easily by just saying something about Alderaan's unique composition is what led to this gas, and you wouldn't get that every time. If there was just one line saying that, you fixed it, you know?
Well, Amy Hennig did an interview in 2019 on a podcast called The Game Maker's Notebook.
Mm-hmm.
With is it Tom or Ted Price? Tim Price, the guy who was in charge of
Vincent Price,
yeah, the guy that was in charge of the studio that created Spyro back in the day. Okay. So he heads up this podcast, and he was interviewing her like right after she left the project. Mm-hmm. She doesn't get into Star Wars too much, but she was talking about breaking down the differences between Indie and Star Wars when they were creating Uncharted, which is their take on Indie, and then eventually Star Wars. And she's like, in Indie, you're almost always with Indie, and you rarely ever cut to the bad guys on their own. Like, it happens a couple times, but rarely. You're mostly always with Indie. Where in Star Wars, you're always going from good guys to bad guys. And interesting Star Wars narrative discussion, but she's like, from a technology standpoint, it provided a problem where if we're on a planet and then we cut away to a Star Destroyer bridge, how do we do that if it's not in memory? Like, how do we do that from a technical standpoint? All that stuff has to be loaded, those assets, like just doing that alone without a giant
loading
was a giant problem. Yeah, it was a giant problem.
Right.
And I imagine the Frostbite engine wasn't too good at it.
Yeah. I doubt it. That thing doesn't seem to... I know it doesn't handle menus well. The Battlefront 2 menus are still broken.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said on the Xbox, if you let the Xbox go to sleep, go make dinner, come back, pick it up, start the game up, connects to Xbox Live, everything starts playing like in fast motion until you get into the game. Then it totally reloads. But yeah, it's just bizarre. And I put another game that was made in the Frostbite engine with the same problem, the same exact like issue would come up. So I'm guessing it's something that can't be fixed in the game itself, but rather has to be fixed in the engine or something. And that's why it was never fixed. But yeah, we are getting like that open world Star Wars game is coming from the people that are doing the Avatar game, Ubisoft, and I'm pretty excited about what that could entail, like 2 what to 3 that years could mean.
Figure, right?
Yeah,
give or take Pandy delay.
Yeah, I'm thinking I feel like it's at least 3 years away. Probably. I don't even know if they finished the Avatar game yet. Like as the story goes, the Lucasfilm people saw the Avatar game, and then or the whoever is in charge of the game licensing saw it, the Disney people, and then they were like, "You're making a Star Wars game." They went, and then they like signed it from there. So yeah, so it's not like it's like in production now, and as we've seen, like Cyberpunk and stuff like that. Cyberpunk,
I got a tail. It's my favorite.
Yeah, you can't rush open world games. If you do, it just does not work. They have to be made like properly. So while I wanted that game yesterday, I will gladly wait 3 to 4 years if it's right. And I mean, even like the Rockstar games are usually like a bit longer than that, and I'm not expecting that level of quality.
Think we'll ever get another single player Grand Theft Auto game?
Yeah,
because I love 5 so much. I don't play the online shit. I just play the story.
Yeah, I play the online and I play the game, and I love it. I do think that I don't know anything about gaming in a big way, but what I do think is that it every quarter or whatever, you hear how much money Grand Theft Auto Online generates, and so to make a new game would be to shut that down. And I don't think that's wise for them. So
then just release expansions within the framework. I don't know, man.
Well, that's kind of what the online stuff does have a lot of story in it now.
I hate
and they're
people.
You hate people? Yeah.
I hate people. Look, I play video games to escape people.
To escape people.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're the only person outside of I'm like, I look forward to talking to that person. Other than that, I'm like, people. Yeah, so it breaks my heart that they're like, you make billions. It doesn't cost billions to run Grand Theft Auto Online. So
no, it
it's
doesn't.
like just fund another. Instead of call it Grand Theft Auto, call it Grand Theft Turbo. Fuck it. Like I don't know.
I in a perfect world, Rockstar would be making the open world Star Wars game. You know what I mean? I know that a lot of what they do well is satire, but it's
they can take it serious. The Red Dead Redemption wasn't satire. It was taken pretty serious.
It does satire in the subtext, but you're right. It's totally serious. And Red Dead 2 was so good. Like that's and it's just like so worth it to put that investment into a game. Like when they do it, they just keep making money. So when you have the Star Wars license.
Well, the problem I think from a financial standpoint is Lucas Arts and Lucasfilm Disney this is a problem with Disney. They want to license out the game so they don't have to build tech, because they were building tech with Junction Point and spending money on these studios, and they're like, we don't want to spend money, we just want to license the games. But some other company has to put up $500 million to make back what? Because they're going to get how much back in licensing fees? Like if Disney is going to go that route, then Disney has to be like, we're not making anything off the game. We're making the toys based off the game.
Yeah.
So anything from the game goes back to that studio. The DLC, all that stuff they keep to incentivize the studio to invest money in that property.
Right.
Because otherwise there's no incentive for a studio, unless you're really hungry. Like before Fallen Order had come out, I was telling my friend, I'm like, they need to find a studio that's super talented, that hasn't had their big day in the sun yet for whatever reason, and wants that's willing to take the shitty licensing deal to get the name, to get their name, to get that property that elevates their name forward. And Respawn did it, right? They made Titanfall 1 and 2, which were great, but they weren't mega successes financially for them. And that the Fallen Order, they did on a shoestring budget, on a wing and a prayer, got it done, because it was originally another game that became this thing. And now everyone's like, oh man, Respawn, what are they going to do next? What are they going to do next? What are they going to do in the Fallen Order? This is so great. But I believe that there's so many places that can do that. Now, Ubisoft, probably they have so much going on, they don't care. The Star Wars license probably gets them enough. You know what I mean? I could see like, okay, there's like your halfway in between where you got a studio that doesn't mind losing a bit of licensing money because they've made licensed games in the past, so they know the deal.
Right.
But they also get to take money away from their competitors, and it puts these people who were in EA's ecosphere now into theirs, and maybe they'll laterally move to another big project. I can see like somewhere they're doing the math, because I doubt Disney gave them a better licensing deal.
Yeah.
Like I just doubt that they, how they treat the mouse. They're like, no, we're the mouse. You should be thinking us. Like that's not how it works.
I wonder if that game could have a faster development cycle because of Avatar essentially being the prototype, if that's what it becomes.
Because they don't have to build the tools. Like I think the thing to remember too is EA has one engine, and they make that engine work for everything.
Right.
And this company has not only just built Avatar, they've built all the Assassin's Creed games. I mean, that got the snowboarding game I like to play. Not a lot of people play it, but I enjoy their snowboarding game. Their mission structures, it's left to be desired. But what game really gets it perfect anyway? Grand Theft Auto does, and Witcher 3, and that's probably it. Everything else, fine, it's a game. I don't care.
Right. Yeah. So hopefully we get news on that soon and it doesn't get canceled again. If it does get canceled, I am officially just giving up on Star Wars gaming altogether. And when something comes out, I'll pay attention. Joel Williamson says the story was so cool. Wish they still did a book or comic at least. Yeah, I'm with you. Like it really is a shame that if they
let Amy write it, I'd want to read the book. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think we're going to end the show here today. I need to go pick up my children want me to come get them. That's what they're texting me. and we're about time, so I think we will end it here. And if you want to support the show, you can. Beautiful. You can become. If you want to support the show, you can become a channel member on the YouTube.com, or you can go to Patreon, Making Star Wars Show, and you can support the show there. And I upload the audio just about every day. I try to get to it every day, but all of these episodes will end up as audio podcasts there, and you get an RSS link. You just click on it in Patreon, and it says, "Can I add this to your podcatcher?" And then you say yes, and then now you're subscribed to the show, like as if it was a podcast.
We have you now.
Yeah.
You feel that? I'm in a tractor beam. It's MakingStarWars.net. I'm getting sucked in. Like,
yeah, and you're like, why are they talking about Jabba the Hutts today? Because we forgot to tell you that there's Jabba the Hutts behind us today. And now you're getting it. But now do you see how the oral experience is so much better? I mean,
Jabba the Hutt ASMR needs to happen.
Oh my God. Oh,
Hut SMR.
I got the shivers when you did it. Oh, the ASMR is just so good. But thanks to everybody.
See my feet?
Want to see Rob's feet on the Patreon?
No. Let's not let that happen.
Rob, I am gonna pimp you out. No, but thanks for hanging out with me today, dude. And it was good talking about the Star Wars with you. I hope I didn't cut you off too much. And always fun. And we will see you guys tomorrow reporting the Star Wars news of the day and talking about whatever's on our and your brains. And Smokey and the Bandit.
It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships.